Well, hello and welcome in, friends. How's everyone doing today? I hope you are well. My name is Sarah, and this is Cage and Lantern. And today I would like to do something a little bit different than I normally do. I would like to tell you a story that came through for me through my meditation. It's a very vivid and intense experience that I would like to share with all of you because I think that there is some sort of story in it for us or a lesson of some kind. And then after I lay the cards down, or after I tell you the story, I'm going to lay down some cards to see how this story relates to us currently and what kind of a message that it can share with us and how we can move forward in our own lives if we're experiencing something like that. So here we go. All right. So I was in my meditation, and as I was very much relaxed and in like a almost a trance-like state because I was so relaxed, they started showing me this entire, some might call it a vision. It feels like a movie playing. And this is not anyone that I know or recognize. I believe these are messages that come from the ancestral realm. That's not to say that it's one of my ancestors or one of yours necessarily, or not even a past life. Let's just say that, all of us are connected in some way. And these are things that come in that might have happened to someone. So what happened? They showed me a picture of a young woman, about 25 to 30 years old, with auburn hair pulled back, and it was in her face. It looked very unkept, and she needed to wash her hair. Her eyes were like a hazel colored with gold around them, and her skin was pale. She had gray circles under her eyes, and she had very deep lines in her forehead. The thing that made me think that she was young is that she kind of had the energy of a younger person. She still was kind of bouncy and like she had some youth in her, right? So she was washing the dishes, and she had this kind of like nervousness to her. And as she was washing the dishes, I noticed that there was no ornamentation in her home. There weren't even pretty curtains. They looked like rags hanging from the curtains. So that kind of gave me the impression that this person didn't have a lot of money. And as she washed the dishes, there were no other sounds, just the sounds of running water. And there were no children. There were no one else was in this place except her. And then they showed me a scene of her sitting at a table with an old-fashioned radio and her tuning it. And then she settles on a channel, and then she sits and she opens a magazine. And from the magazine, I can see that this is about probably the late 1920s, early 1930s, so the Great Depression era, which would explain, the drab kind of impoverished surroundings. She's got this radio though, and you can tell that that's kind of like what her life revolves around, because as we can see time going on, no one visits her. I see her doing like yard work, taking care of animals like a farm. I see her cooking food for large numbers of hired help. But the house is like attached to some sort of larger farm, and it's just it looks like a clean shanty, which is a very old tar paper shack that settlers used to put on their property to claim it as theirs and to prove up the land. Okay, so now after she's sitting there, and I'm seeing her working, like I can see she's resting. It's been a long day. And she has a cup of coffee or tea next to her. And then all of a sudden I see it be like, daylight, and then I see it darkness. And she's still sitting in the dark, sitting at the table in the dark. She has not lit any candles. She has not put on any lights. I don't think that this place has like running water or running electricity. And I see her pumping water. So, okay. And then the next time I see her, she's actually in a car, a very old, like almost Model T kind of looking car. And I see her coming out in the dawn with a paper bag, a pocketbook, a pair of old gloves in her hand, like in a fist in her hand. And I'm seeing her kind of juggling all this. And then she puts this almost ridiculously small hat on her head that just seems kind of out of place. I don't know what that was about. I see her get into her car, and after starting it, because like there's cranking involved and she's out there doing all that. Finally, she gets it running, and she's kind of a strapping girl. She's thin. Don't get me wrong, but she's like pure muscle. Like she had no trouble. And I know that starting those old cars took a lot of muscle. This is someone who wasn't hard, who was used to very hard work, physical labor. She gets into her car, and I see her look at her pocketbook and open it up. She takes the gloves and shoves them inside of the pocketbook. But there is a tube of lipstick that she pulls out. She opens it and she twists it open. And I can see, they show me that the lipstick has never been used before. It's unspoiled. And I see her contemplate putting it on her lips. She looks in the rearview mirror and she holds it there. And I think, what is she waiting for? But she doesn't put it on. She closes it back up, puts the lid on the tube and puts it back into her pocketbook and closes it with a snap. I see her driving, and I see dawn turning into later in the day. She's driving for quite a long time. She stops for gasoline. Someone comes out, fills her tank for her. She pays. She's very pleasant. She's almost, it's almost like she's reopening, like a flower reopening, because when she's in her little home, she seems really sad. And then as she gets back out into the public venue, she seems to come alive, right? The young man smiles at her, and you see her like really come alive, like blossom, like she enjoys the attention. We see that this is not something that she gets very often. Finally, she comes to her destination, and it's this large brick building. And she gets the paper bag. She gets her pocketbook. She opens up the pocketbook. I see her look at the lipstick and bring it out again, but she doesn't take the lid off. She looks at herself in the rearview mirror, and she pinches her cheeks, but she doesn't put on the lipstick. She does put on the gloves, and she sees that the one glove has a big hole in it, and almost the sensation of, like, I get the impression like, oh, I was supposed to mend that and I never got around to it. And you kind of see her sitting there like, really? But anyway, she puts the gloves on and she kind of maneuvers it anyway. She doesn't put on the lipstick though. She grabs the paper bag, her pocketbook, and she walks up this walk. And I'm realizing it is a jailhouse. There is a guard standing at the door. When she walks in, he greets her. She greets him. There's some familiarity there. So I'm getting the impression that, she's been there before. He looks over her package there that she brings in. He takes everything out and he monitors, makes sure there's nothing, like a pie with a file in it or something like that. And there isn't. And he kind of acts like he knows that there won't be, because he clearly knows her. He is familiar with who she is and her story. And the next thing that they show me is her sitting across from a man. And I take it to be her husband because she gets to hold his hands. There is a guard very close by with a gun. And so I'm taking that she's visiting him. And she has these things, and there's cigarettes and the candy, and there's some personal items, like soap and things like that she has brought for him. And there's homemade cookies. And he says, he holds up a cookie, and he's just, so you can just see him so thankful for this. And as she's getting ready to leave, she can't, kiss him or anything, but she does one of these, and he does it back to her. And then they show me like these two people when they were first dating, going out dancing. I see them at a movie. I see him, kissing her. And then I see her like crying, and him like, it's okay. And I get the impression from the next scene that she's pregnant and he has to marry her because that's how it is. I see her mother like really giving her hell. And I see like there's probably not a father figure for her. And so he does the right thing and he marries her, but we kind of get this impression that it's a shotgun wedding kind of thing. We see the baby, be born, rather her pregnant, and then her bringing the baby home from the hospital. He, is a very doting father, and he's handing out cigars, and he's very excited and just so proud of this baby. Like, he loves this baby. We see him going back and forth to work. It's like, even though they had to get married because of this unexpected pregnancy, they seem very happy. And I think, wow, that's, kind of nice. And then it continues. So if you're still here with me, I thank you. So here we go. The story turns. And what happens next is that I see him sitting at the kitchen table, and they're in a different house than the one that I saw them in, her initially. This is a nice house. Like, this is a house where there's pretty curtains up, and there's you can tell that it's well loved. And he's sitting at the table, he's reading newspaper, he's, eating breakfast, he's getting ready to go out the door for work. And we see her with her curlers in her hair, and she's got a wrapper on over her nightgown. And you can see that like sunlight's coming through the window, and she kind of looks at it like she thinks it's strange. And then we see the cradle where the baby is, almost like she's putting it together that it's strange that the baby slept this long. And she kind of tiptoes over, almost like not sure what she will find. And the baby is very gray, and she screams. And then the next thing I see is the husband holding this tiny coffin, and he's a bigger man, and it looks like something for a doll. And I see him lowering it into the ground, and he is sobbing. And then I see her standing in her brown dress and her silly small hat, and these same gloves, and she's just stock still. She's absolutely stricken with grief. And then that's where that ends. And the next time I see her, okay, let me think. Oh, okay. So the next time I see her, she's now in this small tar paper shack kind of thing, and she's doing the dishes again. And so it's like this cycle over and over. And then I see it pan over to, let me think here. And then I see it pan over to her visiting her husband at the hospital, or not hospital, at the jail. And she's getting older. And again, with the red lipstick. And I see this going, oh, like 3 or 4 times we see this happening. And we see her getting older and him getting older. So I know a lot of time is passing. Like it's a different guard eventually that is looking through the items, and she's getting older. I'm thinking she's like almost past the point that she could have a baby, and she's been married or with this man this whole time. And finally, after this, I see her in a little bit more of a fixed up kitchen. It's the same house, it's the tar paper shack, but it's got some more bright and cheerful kind of curtains. I see her like sewing curtains, and they're a very 1950s kind of style. She's got a dress on that looks like the 1950s. And I kind of see that she's maybe, she's getting excited about something. She's got a newer radio. The magazines are a little bit different. She's playing solitaire at the table. The dress that she's wearing, it's not that drab brown. It's something a little bit more fun, almost like she's coming into who she was meant to be. Like she's clearly stood by this man for all this time, but I see that she has stopped. She has stopped hanging her every dream on this situation. She's kind of made the most of it. And I see her like at times like talking with this older woman who I think might be her mother, and her arguing with her. Like maybe she was saying, I've been here this whole time with him, and I'm ready to leave. And maybe her hearing, no, that's not done. You married him, you have to stick with it, kind of thing. You made your bed, now it's time to lie in it. And I see like the minister coming in and trying to counsel her, and her just feeling so frustrated. And I just wonder, like, who was this lady? What happened to her? And the last thing that they showed me is her, with that tube of lipstick. And she does not put the lipstick on. And I don't know why, but I do see her put on some perfume. I see her pinch her cheeks. I see her get into her car. And I wonder, where is she going? Is she going to pick him up from jail? Like, is he finally getting out? It's been a really long time. Or maybe she's gone off to see someone, a friend or a neighbor, or maybe she's going to meet someone. And I think the reason why I was shown this is I almost feel like she is saying, don't let yourself wait your whole life away for something. Don't wait on a relationship. Don't wait for an apology. Don't wait for someone to show back up in your life again before you put yourself first. And I just really wonder, about this woman, if she is someone that maybe it was a past life of mine, or maybe it was a past life of yours. I just think it's so fascinating when these folks show up in my thoughts, and I just feel like I have to tell their story. So if you liked this, I would really appreciate you letting me know down below. I would like to pull some tarot cards now, just to sort of see what energy can be shared with the collective, to see what message, why this came through for me in the first place. So the first card I got was the Three of Wands. It's like expansion, growth, and looking ahead. Okay, what other messages? All right. Yeah, it's having this commitment and devotion to something outside of us. And Spirit is saying, make sure that you're using authority and logic, and that you are, that you're not committed to staying so strict with something that you self-sabotage. Someone here might need to hear about juggling and flexibility. Maybe your story is not quite as severe as waiting for your husband to get out of jail, but is there some other things in your life that maybe you're juggling that you don't need to juggle, that are not yours to carry? Maybe. And is there any final advice that Spirit would like to give to this beautiful collective that stayed until the end to hear? Yeah, someone like the woman in the story is waiting and waiting to see whether or not what they've put out is ever going to even bloom. And I don't know if you saw that, but that just popped out of the deck. And this is the 10 of Pentacles. And so what that tells me is that someone here, by hearing this story, by considering what this past ancestor, someone from the Ancestral collective, they're wanting you to learn from their experiences. I'm hearing you don't have to suffer like I suffered. And I think that's really her message coming forth. And so someone here is making decisions that's going to benefit them greatly. You got the 2 of Wands. So that tells me someone's planning. Yeah. And then someone had heartbreak recently, and all they want is this happy life. Just like the woman in the story, her heart was absolutely broken. She lost her husband. She lost her baby. She lost her freedom, because while her husband was in this jail or prison, she also was in a cage of her own, right? Yeah, she was like stuck. And all she wanted was this life that she thought she had signed up for. Life does give us lemons sometimes. But what could happen for you is the 9 of Pentacles. The 9 of Pentacles is someone who is self-sufficient, like the woman in the story. Let's hope she put that lipstick on, right? Yeah. So what advice does Spirit have for those of us who feel stuck, who feel like we're waiting and waiting and nothing is materializing? It looks like there could be some... Someone here is very curious about something greater than them, and maybe they've been doing some research on that. And I'm getting like this is a very spiritual energy coming in. Like maybe someone here is starting to receive downloads of their own. Like maybe you're also getting kind of messages. They don't have to be like visions or anything. They can just be like a deep knowing, or a feeling, or like just a deep intuitive knowledge of something. Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty and confusion. I got the Moon here, and the advice is to trust your intuition. You deep down inside know. You know what's right and wrong, and don't be like the woman in the story and accept that you're stuck. You know, she lived during a time where social normities frowned upon women divorcing husbands, even if their husbands might be in jail for like a lifetime. And I don't know that this is actually, you know, a true person that lived, but metaphorically speaking, like what kind of prison have you put yourself in, or cage that you can't get out of? Or maybe the cage door is wide open and you just can't seem to make yourself go through it. But there is hope, because you got the Queen of Wands. And I love the Queen of Wands because it's that magician kind of energy coming from her. she does what she wants. She manifests things for herself. And you're being asked by Spirit to embody this archetype, this can-do, confident, self-assured type of vivacious, optimistic energy. Yeah, the bottom of the deck, you got the Fool. I think I'm going to leave that there. And I want to thank the woman who came through today, and tell her how honored I am to have told her story to the collective, so that her life didn't go by in vain without someone recognizing the things she went through. And I don't think she was trying to be a martyr. I think that society just kept her locked into that sort of that sort of life. That's how it was. And our ancestors have a lot to tell us. We live in a completely different time where we have a lot of freedom. And I love thinking about the past, because a lot of those people, they were stuck. They couldn't move forward. We live in a much different time now. So maybe we can take their examples and think of them when we're moving through a really rough time in our own life. Anyway, if you liked the video and you're still here, wow, thank you. Thank you for sticking around so long. Maybe what would be fun is if someone would put a tube of red lipstick or a lip emoji with red lips, just to let me know you made it to the end. All right. I appreciate all of you, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.